Autism can mean that someone might behave in a way that seems a bit different or unusual to an outsider. And this can mean that some people, if they don't understand that behaviour, can treat people with autism differently or maybe exclude them. As a consequence, people with autism feel that they may have to conform or change their behaviour in order to fit in with society. And this can be very stressful and cause a lot of anxiety. Over the past few months, I've had the opportunity to meet many people with autism and Asperger's syndrome. And some of the insights that they've shared have the potential to challenge the misconceptions that we all hold. What do you think you find most challenging as a result of Asperger's?
Trying to fit into a world that's not really accommodating. Right, I don't mean it's particularly hostile. I think it's not really adapted to or particularly understanding of.
Yeah,
but then that's me looking at it from that point of view.
Sure.
If anybody, say a member of the public or who is unaware of it, asks me, they have a tendency to label things as much of a likeness and all of the same, and they forget that everybody is an individual person.
Yeah.
I have on my support plan child of all ages, though a lot of people, they equate calling yourself a child with disrespect. Children need to be respected but have different needs in many ways. For me, it's about access to play equipment. That was the thing I loved most of all in the world, and when I wasn't allowed on them, it was just like a living death, really. I'd rather not live anymore than be in a world where just the dull, grey adult world was available to me, because I just didn't identify with any of that and I wasn't equipped to deal with it. I love balancing. I love coming to the park. It's difficult to believe when I'm doing things like this, but I had a lot of severe balance problems. I still do in many ways. Walking through crowds, I can't sense which way to step. It's like everyone's closing in on me and I just have to stand frozen until they get out of the way or make a lot of detours round people. But in the park, I just feel really free and relaxed. You can shut your eyes.
Careful.
Go backwards.
So what would you say are the biggest challenges of Asperger's for you?
I think I'm quite sensitive to sound, so sometimes I concentrate so much on something, it kind of shuts out what I'm hearing. So someone could be talking to me and it just seems like I'm ignoring them. So that's why I kind of like working in the library, because usually it's quite quiet and usually dealing with one person at a time, so you can focus all your attention on them.
Do people at work know you have Asperger's syndrome?
Some people do, some people don't, so it's kind of more with line managers, that kind of thing. They know, and they just treat me normally, because that's how I prefer to be treated, because it's not much different. I'm not that different. The only difference is sometimes I get a bit more stressed than other people.
I tend to have a kind of panoramic sort of view and I look at all sorts of things at once, and it's very annoying when you look at something and it's kind of irrelevant. It was particularly sensory clutter, such as what I would call, but others might not, unnecessary signage, clocks that have stopped or clocks that don't tell the right time and things like that, and advertising hoardings and so on, particularly if they block out a good view and things like that. And basically it's things that I find unfunctional.
A psychologist I saw to get my ADHD diagnosis described the autistic executive functioning brain as a bit like the old steam trains that take a lot of starting and a lot of stopping, and that fits quite well with me motivational problems now. And you need to have that self-insight, that self-understanding, or you can end up just blaming yourself for being lazy and not being able to explain yourself to other people.
What kind of things were it that made you feel stressed and anxious?
It's that idea that something's finishing with me. What am I going to do next? It's kind of also when I'm reading something or listening to audiobooks, sometimes I don't actually finish it because I'm enjoying it so much I don't want it to end, kind of thing. So sometimes I don't get to the end of something.
So what do you think some of the challenges of being autistic are?
I think most of the things, a lot of things that most people may take for granted, often it gets said to us, don't let anyone or anything stop you doing what you want to do. But sometimes, quite literally, nothing stops me doing what I want to do. See, if I like seesaws and there's literally nobody to share the other end with me, that often represents a lot of things in an autistic person's life.
Most relationships now are not a problem, but trying to understand a lot of things that some members of the public do sometimes is a problem, because I do have a tendency to analyse it and try to make sense of it, and sometimes there is no sense in it. A lot of people would base things on facial expressions and things like that, and I had a problem with that. And they said, well, you should know what I'm thinking. And it was, no, if you tell me, I can help work out this problem. And it was, but you should know what I'm thinking. So I was at kind of stalemate.
What positives are there, do you think, for your job with having Asperger's?
People find me, I'm quite laid back, and they say I'm quite a good listener, so I don't rush into anything. Also, I've got quite attention for details, so when you're doing something like data entry or doing something really repetitive, usually don't get bored. I'll just keep on going and going and going.
I realised that this is not such a bad thing. There are positives about it, although that is not often the way it's portrayed.
Yeah.
I think it allows me to look at things in a different way, perhaps a bit of extra intelligence, bit of added tolerance for people with different conditions and so on. The way I see it is like being almost a different species put in the wrong environment.
Being diagnosed autistic was one of the most positive things in my life, because I dumped all mainstream society and started joining in disability, diversity friendly places. The way we treat each other, it's all about looking after each other, personal development, being kind to each other, helping each other. And when we look at some of the ways people treat each other in mainstream society, it's just quite nasty and barbaric compared to the way disabled people in the places I go treat each other.
Putting together what you've just said, is it right to think that probably the single most important thing that people can do to make life easier for someone with autism or an autistic person is acceptance?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Over the last few decades, there's been a lot of positive steps taken to reduce discrimination against people, whether it be because of their skin colour, sexual orientation or gender. There's also a clear need to reduce discrimination against people who may see the world differently or think differently or communicate differently, whether this is due to autism or anything else.